Info session for the School of Supernatural Life. The purpose of this session is to just give you a quick overview of the school, and then we have a couple people that are going to give like a little testimony that have done the school, and then we'll answer any questions that you might have. We don't anticipate it being like a super long thing because, let's face it, we need to have dinner. Am I right? Thank you, Jesus. It is worth noting that our school is actually a 2-year school. But it's made up of 2 separate years. So by that I mean you can come and do the School of Supernatural Life and only do year 1, and you still graduate from year 1. There is an additional second year, which actually I probably won't be spending much time talking about today because most people who have done year 1 hear about year 2 while they're on it, so they very likely know about that already. So our school... we designed the school 8 years ago. We started it 8 years ago, which is amazing to me. And basically we designed it because we had a whole bunch of people that wanted to experience more of God in their lives. And there's something you can do in a school format that you can't do in a once a week Sunday morning format, right? So we basically, Alan and I both, he sort of referenced it a little bit in one of the answers to the questions, but we both felt like one of the things that's on our lives is to build a greenhouse, a place for people to grow. And so we wanted to build a greenhouse in order for people to experience the kind of transformation that maybe would normally take 10 years could happen in a year or something like that. Does that make sense? Also, in addition to that, we love schools. Alan and I have both done one. So Alan did Toronto, I did one in YWAM. And so when we were designing this school, we talked to people at Bethel, we talked to people in all different schools, and then we put something together that felt the most like us and like the culture that we wanted to create to allow people to grow and to heal. And so that's actually where the school came from. Dun, dun, dun. So there are 3 main steps to the transformation that we take the students through on the school. The first one is just the revelation of the kindness of God. And really that revelation undergirds everything that we talk about on the school. We spend only one sort of solid week talking about the Father heart of God, but if you talk to anybody who's done the school, they'll tell you it's every single week we're talking about it because it's the foundation of everything else that we're doing on the school. All fruitfulness flows from intimacy. Heidi Baker said that. And you can actually only be as intimate as you feel safe. So if you don't actually know how good he is and how much he loves you, it's no wonder that we can't draw close and have the kind of walk that we want to have. Does that make sense? Then there's the whole element of, as it is called, the School of Supernatural Life, learning to walk in the supernatural ways of God. So from everything from, we cover a whole bunch of stuff, basically, right? So if you think about the Lord's Prayer, many people really want to get to, and Jeff touched on this last night, we really want to get to your kingdom come without going through our Father who is in heaven, right? And so the reason we start with the Father heart stuff and a bunch of the inner healing is so that when we start flowing in the gifts of the Spirit, we're flowing in something that's going to deliver much more life. So on the school, you learn to do things like hear God's voice, you learn to prophesy, you learn to heal the sick, you learn to interpret dreams, you learn about the spirit realm and third heaven and all that kind of stuff. I mean, we have fun learning about super cool stuff. Sorry, my computer just decided to do an update. Yay! No. There we go. Are we back? Okay, good. Well, that was random. And then lastly, we equip you with a whole bunch of tools sorry, it's frozen. Great. Okay. Well, let's just see if it unfreezes in just a second. We equip you with a whole bunch of tools that help you work through the hurts that you've picked up through life, to help you manage relationships, to help you transition well out of being in a school back to normal life. Though the school is designed really that you don't fully disengage from having a normal life on purpose. because we did notice, both Alan and I did schools where you're kind of in a bubble. And so you go away and you're in this nice little Christian bubble. And there's great things about that, but there's also sometimes the thing of you don't actually have to practice what you learned because everybody around you is already saved, right? And then you have like this huge, like, jarring experience when you go back into the world. So part of what we love about the school is that actually you're with us Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, but the rest of the week you're doing life. You're doing your normal life with the people around you and your jobs or your family, and you get to practice what you've learned, and they get to experience the transformation with you, which is so fun. Let's see if it will play. All right. Can somebody text Alan and tell him my computer is being very naughty? So I don't even know what the next slide is because it won't show me. Isn't that lovely? Let me tell you a few details about the school, and then if I miss any, I'll go through them once he comes in, makes my computer behave. We have school on Mondays and Tuesdays from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and you do have obviously a lunch break in there. We're not just, we're not crazy people. We're not slave drivers. But we have school on Monday and Tuesday. And then while you're on the school, we ask that you're part of Grace Center. So you attend church on Sunday morning and then also attend Emanate on Monday nights, which is our young adult group. Now, if you're not a young adult at the time of attending, you still get to attend Emanate, which is always fun. We have, is he responding at all? Okay. I'm like mentally trying to remember what slide comes next. And I'm like, I don't know. Hi, babe. My computer died. Oh, that's probably what it was. It wanted to do an update in the middle, and then now it's stuck like that. Okay, I don't know if any wives can relate to this, or maybe people in general, but like he can get it to do something and you're my hero. Yay! So there was my tool. You received tools. See? Isn't it beautiful? This slide. Every year, it is an absolute joy to witness people transform. I would love to at some point find all the pictures that we take the first day of school and match them up with like an end of year picture, because honestly, it is shocking. It is so fun to see the transformation that happens. And I'll be honest with you, it's equally sad for us sometimes when we're like, we know somebody's wanting to do it and it just doesn't happen for them yet. And we're like, we really want this for you. And so I do get really excited when people finally, it's their year to do it, because I know that they've been waiting and they've been hoping. And so then they get to have that moment. So we said this, Monday and Tuesday, and then you attend church on Sundays. There's 6 teaching sessions per week on a particular subject. So each week is on a subject and they build. So, we'll do like hearing God's voice, and then we teach the Father Heart of God, and then we teach inner healing, and then we teach the prophetic. And so they all build one on another in order to get the entire school worth of building that happens. Our speakers, some of them are from Grace Center. Alan and I teach on the school. Jeff teaches on the school. A number of our pastoral team teach on the school. And then we also have outside speakers that come in and speak. So people like John and Carol. Steve Long comes from Toronto. We have Dan come from Bethel. So we have a whole bunch of outside speakers and inside speakers, which is really fun because you get a good mix of people. You also would be in a small group. And this is a group of literally 5 or 6 people. If you're a girl, you'd be in a group of girls. If you're a guy, you'd be in a group of guys, where you're all doing this school together and you get to process together, and you have a small group leader who has done this school before you, who is helping you work through any places where you get stuck. So it makes it a safe environment for you to be able to process and learn and grow. The school also has an outreach component where you get to give it all away, which is awesome. The outreach is optional. You don't have to do outreach. We always highly recommend it because honestly, it's on outreach that most people have the revelation that this thing actually works. That all this stuff that we train them to do, they can actually do that. So that's super fun as well. The price of the school is $4,000 for the school year. That's whether you're doing year 1 or year 2. But if you are needing to use childcare, which we do offer childcare if you happen to have young kids, we have a program where they're going through, at the same time that you're in class, they're in class, and they're learning a little kid version of the kind of stuff that you're learning. So it's really fun. My kids have all gone through our children's ministry or childcare for the school, and they have loved it, and I've noticed the growth in them. So that's really fun. The application deadline for the school is June 15th, and that's your application and all of your references to be in, okay? So just if you can keep that date in the forefront of your mind. And then the first day of school is September 4th, and that's our orientation day, which is when all the fun begins. I want to introduce some people to you, not all of which are in this room, but when you initially contact the school, you will be in contact with these first 2 ladies mostly. Sarah Pape, who is our school administrator, and Bethany Barkley, who's the administrative assistant. And they are rock stars. They're amazing. If you have questions, they have your answers. They're great at all that stuff, so you can email in questions or you can phone if you need to. Corey Nuss is our outreach coordinator, and so we have done outreach on 5 continents, which is pretty exciting, and she organizes all of them for us. And then we also have 2 school pastors, which are, I know, Shannon, but she looks like this now, okay? She has long hair. They sent me a long-haired picture, but I couldn't make it not look washed out, and so I went for the color. There you go, because, you should look as stunning as you do. So Shannon and Matt are school pastors, and they pastor both our small group leaders and all of our students on both year 1 and year 2, and they are just very, very skilled at helping us when we get stuck. And by us, I mean me too. So I wonder, actually, if you guys, could you 4 come up and just, what question do I want to ask you? How about this? What was the most life-changing thing for you in doing the school? They're all graduates of the school. Lightning round.
Okay. I did this school, I was a guinea pig because the first year that they did this school, you couldn't do the school if you were over 40. And so they wanted to see if maybe this stuff worked for people who were over 40.
Just slightly over 40.
AJ had a dream, and in the dream, the Lord showed her who she should ask. I was one of the people. She didn't know that I had been to the graduation that previous year and just said, "Oh, Lord, I wish I could do this school, but I don't think I can because I'm over the limit." So I was happy to do this school. It was a really great experience, and I think the biggest transformation for me was I was pushed in some of the best ways possible by the students that were surrounding me, and it pointed out areas of shame that I didn't realize that I had because I should know this, and it helped me to really accept where I was and then move forward from there, which was the biggest jump for me, is not just thinking either I don't get it, I can't get it, I'm too old to get it, or just being ashamed about it. And it really uncovered a big area of my heart that I hadn't had an opportunity to C before that. And so being around a bunch of amazing people in their 20s pushed me forward and really helped reveal something that the Lord wanted to heal. And so I think that was the biggest point of transformation, that it's good. We are where we are. We can be in our process, and we can always learn and grow.
Good. That's great. Yeah, my name is Matt Krause. I'm the other school pastor. I'd like to point out that my hair is also much longer than it was in that picture, but you can't tell because it's all pulled back. But yes, so I did the school the same year as Shannon. We graduated in 2013, and I think some of the biggest areas of transformation for me as someone who grew up going to church, my parents and my siblings are believers and all these things, and I have been to church a lot. But the greatest areas of transformation for me through the school was a revelation of God as a father and Jesus as a friend who is actually present with me, and I can relate with him on a constant basis, because I had a belief that no one taught me this specifically, but I had learned over the course of my life that I believe that I can only have what I can earn. I can only receive what I'm able to earn. And so I had this very confrontational experience of the Lord's kindness to me and his actual desire to give more than I'm able to earn, AKA the gospel. So I had an incredible experience of that, as well as being in a community of people that were honoring and encouraging and loving in a way that I hadn't experienced before. And it absolutely changed my life over the course of that year.
So my husband and I got to do the school together, both years together. So if you're married and thinking about doing it with your spouse, it's like one of the greatest things that you can do ever with your spouse, because it's so fun to get to watch each other be transformed at the same time and get to go home and process together. It's like having a built-in accountability partner, which is super fun. So my little plug for if you're a spouse and thinking of doing it with your spouse, I highly recommend it. It's so much fun. But I think one of the biggest transformations for me is the fact that the school sets you up for encounters with the Lord. So encounters that I always wanted with the Lord, and maybe my head knew that they were possible, but I don't know if my heart really knew that they were impossible. I got to have those encounters with the Lord. And I had come out of growing up in the church as well, and I think in being in full-time ministry before I had moved here, and I think one of the lies that my heart had believed was that people only like me for what I can do for them. And I kind of transferred that onto the Lord as well. So getting to learn that the Lord loves me just for me, just because he created me and created me to love on me, and that's it was paradigm shifting and completely life-changing, because out of that you can do anything if you know the Lord loves you, just you sitting there and being cute. So that would be my biggest takeaway.
I love it. So I also grew up in the church. And I think for me, I had heard about a lot of these concepts and heard people talk about hearing God's voice and prophesying and all of that, but no one had taken me the time to walk me through it and to be oh, this is how you actually do it. And I feel like I came to the school and there was so much practical application and being set up for success in all of these ways. I was 25 and I was like, how did nobody tell me this already? I've been in the church my whole life and been in leadership. So to be in a place where people practically break things down and make it so incredibly clear and understandable, their goal is for you to flourish. Their goal is for you to succeed. They always say, my ceiling is your floor, and they live it out. And so everything they've gained over the years is presented to you in something that's so easy to understand, take, and run with. And that's their heart for you. So I think that was the most transforming thing for me, to just be under healthy leadership, safe leadership, that their goal was really for us to be able to understand what the Lord was doing and just to give us everything they had learned over the years in such a short amount of time, and to really set us up for success in every area. I think that's what was the most impactful for me.
Yay! Thanks, guys. I had asked Judah and Kristen if they wanted to just share something. So I know we're pushing the time, but could you guys each just literally give a 30-second, because I know you've been thinking about it. Judah and Kristen had both done the school as well and served as small group leaders now. So go ahead.
Yeah, so I came to do year one in 2014, and I'm a pastor's kid. Like a bunch of other people grew up in the church, and the Lord totally wrecked my life in the best possible way. Everything that I had thought was who he was isn't who he is. and all of that was undone, and I got to rebuild a relationship with the Father, with Jesus, and with the Holy Spirit, and really meet and encounter who they are in a very tangible, very real way. And it changed everything in my life as well as my family's life, because they saw the transformation that I went through. So many of my family members, my cousin, my sister, my aunt and uncle have actually come through the school because they saw the dramatic change in the way that I live my life. It's
So
amazing.
cool.
So I grew up in the church too, and I grew up in a church that didn't believe that the Lord still spoke today, so I lived my life that way. It was only hearsay because they would say that the Lord loved me, but I couldn't believe it for myself because I wasn't hearing that. And then also too, I think I just started to partner with dread because the Lord had good plans for my future was what I heard somebody else saying, but I didn't hear the Lord saying that over me. So when I came to this school to learn to hear that the Father actually loved me and he did have good plans for my future, it literally changed everything, and that was literally just on the first day. So, and I did 2 years after that, so there's so much more, but it's a paradigm shift for like what you grow up with and then what you come and just unlearn and relearn amazing things that the Lord loves you. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yay. Thank you. All right, we're going to have a time of questions, and if you have a question, Matt has a microphone, and he will run to you. Anybody have any questions? It can be logistics, it can be anything. Pardon? Yeah.
I just wanted to note that tuition is $4,000, but there are some discounts available, and they're listed on our website. So if you just want to check that out, all deadlines, payment amounts, and some discounts that are available are listed there as well.
Hands, they're coming, they're coming.
So this is like the business side of me. I'm wondering if there's like a certificate or any kind of like, does going through the school provide opportunity for, you know, ways to serve here, or what is kind of, is that just a different?
Does it provide ways to serve here? Well, when you're on the school, you'll be on the ministry team, you'll be on the prophetic team, because that's all part of the hands-on training of all the stuff that you learn. We don't actually, we're not legally offering a certificate. We're not like a, what do you call that? Accredited body, yeah.
I could have several questions.
Okay.
But I'll just go with one for now. So I want to say that it looks as though everyone that was up there speaking speaks well. Mm-hmm. And so is there anything attributed to that? Any personal stories? For example, is there a freeing process that enabled you to communicate? Because I see gifted communicators. Is that part of the curriculum, or is that something in the unraveling of identity?
It's both. It's both.
Yes.
You go through an enormous amount of inner healing, and so you gain confidence in that process because you start to realize what God's actually saying about you. Then you can start to talk like you believe it. But we also train you to preach, and we train you to communicate on the school. So it's both.
So I'll say that's encouraging, because that's one of the first things I picked up. I see like, wow, there's an evangelist, there's a pastor, So another question I have is, I'm very interested in the gifts. Is there special attention, or at least accredited sections of the curriculum toward that?
Yes.
Or the development of it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. We spend a week on teaching you how to heal the sick, and then we do all the practical, and then we go out in Nashville and we do the stuff. We spend a week on the prophetic. We teach you, we do a whole bunch of games. We get you all confident, and then we go out and do the stuff. So it's very hands-on and practical, because people learn better by actually doing it. Don't let that statement freak you out, because we don't send you out until you're ready to go out. Like, we don't just sort of go, okay, we taught you 2 things, off you go. But yeah, by the end of the school, the fun part is when people are like, again, I can actually do this stuff that I was terrified of a year ago. Yeah.
Awesome. So hands-on, like impartation type hands-on?
Yep.
So, wow, that's really loud. I imagine that as people
enter and are a part of the process, there is breakthrough, and specifically the Lord cracking open parts in their heart that have been laid over.
Yes,
for
there's
long
a
time.
fair amount of that. Yes.
What does it look like when someone has one of those experiences? And I'm specifically asking, like, do you suggest that they find a counselor in those times? Do you suggest outside help when life just goes nuts and everything seems to fall apart? What does it look like from the school perspective? It continues, and you may not have specific time for one person just to like bawl in the side of the room for a month.
Well, first of all, that happens a lot where people, they get in touch with stuff that's been shoved down for years and they cry every day for a month. And that's, that's why they have a small group leader. That's why we have school staff. That's why we have Shannon and Matt. Like we are really well equipped to help people process. I don't know if that answers your question, but people spend a lot of time crying. Not everybody, but it sort of depends on what life's looked like up to this point and how much inner healing and all that kind of stuff you've been through. But it doesn't bother us at all if people are crying, and we just help you through the process as best we can.
So is that to say that it's been proven that you haven't really needed anyone to go find outside?
We haven't.
assistance?
We've never needed to go. Is that? Yes.
There are certain circumstances where the person comes in with a whole lot of stuff, and we are looking at that. So we recognize that we are digging stuff up. And if we think that if you have had just so much trauma that you're actually maybe disassociating, if you know what that means, just like you can't stay in your body, you can't stay present. We would talk to you and we would see, is this going to be a good situation for you? Because we recognize if you have some really extenuating circumstances like that happening, we don't want to put people in danger of uncovering things that a more typical, and we've had tons of people through our school who have had horrific backgrounds, and that does not disqualify them. As a matter of fact, they come out miraculously changed. But we're conscientious about looking at, it's a pretty extensive application process. And if there's any question whether we think that this would be a helpful thing at this time, we would meet and talk to you and find out, hey, can you tell me a little bit more about what your process is, et cetera, et cetera. And, if things get, pulled up that you don't expect, yeah, we would suggest, sure. If it seems like something that's going to be an ongoing thing, of course we would suggest you might need some individual help. But typically, out of 7 years, I can think of 2 students in however many hundreds of students where that's been the case.
Yeah, if I can comment on that too. Our experience, for all of us that you've heard speak, I would say one of the greatest benefits of the school as well was having people around me and leaders, having a small group leader and pastors that were not necessarily counseling me through everything, but they're helping me stay connected to Jesus, who is able to do all of those things. And so that's our passion within the school, is not to, we of course we don't recommend against counseling or things. We don't want to close people off to those kinds of things, but our goal is to help people connect to Jesus and to the Holy Spirit and to the Father with their whole self and walk people through that. So, you said you had one more question.
I'm back. So obviously I'm interested in the school. That's one of the greatest things that attracted me to Grace Center. We have 3 little kids, 11, 5, and 4, and my wife she takes great good care of them. And so it's intimidating to think of how it could work. Are there any couples or women with several kids that have gone through that possibly could reach out and to just talk to us about the possibilities of it, because there's an intimidation factor. And
all three of mine have been through it, so we can talk about how we made it work and whatever. But I mean, for the last couple of school years, we've had usually around 20 or more kids that are in the children's ministry program, and you do lunch with them, so you just drop them off in the morning, and if they have a nap schedule or whatever, you tell the people that are taking care of them this is when they nap. And the people that staff the school for the most part are usually graduates of the school, so we're pretty intense about who we have watching our kids and who we have teaching them stuff and all that kind of stuff. So, but then, the thing that was great for me, just as a mom, is I knew I was going to go get to pick them up at lunch, and then I get the hour and a half at lunch to whatever, and I would go and put them down for their nap myself. Then they'd wake up from their nap. School's over an hour later, and we go home. And so I'm happy to chat with you, to answer any questions. But we've really designed the children's ministry portion of it to be beneficial to the kids. But also, hopefully make it easy on the parents. So, yeah.
Is there anyone here that has gone to the school that they were involved, or they were working like at a full time where they have responsibilities? For me personally, I have challenges. I have maybe not a fear, because I'm planning to talk to my boss next week about this, and I want to know if there's anyone here that could maybe encourage me with that, because I plan on keeping my job full time and working, juggling all that.
Danielle, do you want to come? We've had that scenario every single school year. There's many students that end up having a discussion with their boss that have real jobs, you know what I mean? And so Danielle was one of those when she came to do the school.
Yes, so I did this school the very first year, and I was a full-time school teacher, and I really felt like the Lord was like, Danielle, this is your time, do the school. And I was really, really excited, but also confused, because I was like, I'm a full-time school teacher. How does this work? And so I took the leap of faith, followed what I felt like the Lord was saying to do, applied for this school, got accepted to the school. And so I was like, okay, got accepted. Now this is time to see, like, Lord, what are you going to do? And so literally the day I got accepted, a part-time teaching position opened up in our county, which is unheard of. I've never seen that. And so I applied for that part-time teaching position, and I was able to do it. And my thing was I needed to keep my benefits, because my husband's had cancer in the past. And so I got to work part-time, keep my benefits. But we've seen so many students over the years. Like, we've seen nurses, we've seen business professionals, we've seen people that have their own jobs.
Doctors.
Doctors. Somebody
architects.
who runs a whole hospital. Like, she was able to do the school and work full time. And so I would encourage you, if you're feeling like the Lord's saying to do it, like, take a chance and ask your boss.
Yeah.
Thank you. We would be the very opposite, coming from Scotland to do the course. So I've got a career break, and Ian's between jobs. So what's your experience of people doing the course who are not doing life with their families and with people around them and carrying on jobs?
I mean, I don't mean this as a trite answer, but probably maybe chat with Quinn about it, because that's what Quinn was like when he was over here. I haven't heard negative feedback of people, that have come. We haven't had an enormous amount of international students yet, because we're still waiting for the immigration stuff to go through and whatnot. But the ones that have come, I don't think that any of them have had difficulty in terms of, community or being here or whatnot. Yeah. So you can get involved in the church. That would be up to you. You, like, as a student, there's certain things we're going to require of you to do, right? So you're going to be scheduled to be on ministry team. You're going to be scheduled to be on the prophetic team, stuff like that. But then there's like outreaches that go out, like Friday Night Lights. There's all sorts of other stuff that you could get involved in if you wanted to get involved in. Yeah. There's women's ministry, men's ministry. Yeah. Yeah.
So I have a couple questions. First one, is there an age limit for kids?
You mean like young or
old? Like not young, the older.
Is okay, yeah. So sorry. Sarah was just saying it depends on like who applies, and then when we see the numbers, like in terms of what we can staff for and all that kind of stuff. So you would just sort of apply and say, this is how many kids I have, and these are the ages, and then they call you and talk about what the needs are for all the different kids.
Yeah. And the other question I have, I had noticed too about how well they speak. It was interesting that you mentioned that. And I wanted to ask a question in regards to that, because my first thing is, my husband and I have done a lot of business coaching in the past, and there's a segment of that I felt like I've been working really hard on undoing, and it was the marketing, almost like the mind control marketing, where you speak a certain way to get a certain response. So when I noticed that, I was automatically, arms crossed, arms crossed, just kind of like looking at everybody cross-eyed. So what would you have to say to me about that?
I don't know anything about mind control marketing. I mean, I'm just telling you, I don't know. I remember I was in sales for 8 months at one point about 20 years ago, and I was horrible at it, and I hate it, so I don't know. I mean, all we do is teach people to speak from the heart. So, and the rest of it is whatever God gives them. So I
just had to ask to make sure.
Yeah.
I could comment on that a little bit, just that I think for a lot of us as well, as part of the school, there is specific teaching on this is how you prepare to deliver a message, and this is how you deliver a message, so speaking in front of people. And for me, I think something that makes it much easier for me to speak in front of people is another breakthrough in the school that was learning that who I am and what the Lord has given me to say is actually a value. So it's easy. Oh, no, your question is it a certain wording or things like that? And no. Because each of us, if you talk to any of us, you would encounter very different versions of what we experience in the school or how we go about communicating it. We're all from different backgrounds and different places, but what the school attempts to do, as well as it is our culture as an organization of very clear communication and things like that. So that's for sure what you're experiencing, but we don't teach anything in terms of magic words to make people believe you or anything.
I've never even heard of that, but I believe you, but I just haven't, yeah. Any other questions before we wrap it up? All right. Well, thank you for all coming today. If you do find that you have more questions, please go ahead and email those into the school, and you'll hear back from Sarah or Bethany. And otherwise, get your applications in by the 15th. We'd love to have you. Yeah.
Yes, thank you guys so much for joining us, and thank you, AJ. Just to let you know, we'll be starting with sound check and prepping the room here in just a moment. So thank you guys so much for being here. If you have any further questions, I think a few of us will be available to chat with you in the hallway if you have specific questions. But I'd ask that if you guys just take your belongings and your seat tags with you, and then we'll be back for this evening. Yes, and there's also a booth out